Hopefully I can stitch this. But anyways, the I like to describe it as kind of like the movie Men in Black. You know, when they kill the alien, that they open his head and then there's like a little dude inside that was kind of just operating the entire body. That's what that kind of form of disassociation feels like. And that form of disassociation I've been experiencing from the physical pain in the back of my head since I was a little girl. And yes, trauma exacerbated that pain, but that pain has always been there. So that's what I try to tell doctors. You guys keep using trauma against us, and this is why a lot of us don't share our trauma in therapy, because our therapy gets used against us so that our medical conditions are ignored and undertreated. Delayed treatment, mismanagement of treatment and conditions, and so on and so forth. It doesn't matter what exacerbated the condition, and sometimes it doesn't even matter what caused the condition for you to be able to create a maintenance plan for your patients. And I'm not talking about a psychiatric maintenance plan for your patients. I'm talking about a medical plan for your patients, because we know that trauma can cause a cascade effect that can actually kill a person. It can give them a stroke, it can give them seizures, it can give them all kinds of problems. Ignoring those things and sending people to psychiatric care when they're already experiencing those things is medical negligence. Whether you want to admit it or not, it's medical negligence. You have to continue to monitor, do the testing. Even if there's nothing you can do, you have to monitor, do the testing, and get this on record, because essentially the body's deterioration is the map for doctors who will need to the map that they will need to use later if the body continues to deteriorate instead of getting better. Yes, we know some bodies will get better, but we also know some will not. And if there's not a clear documentation of that deterioration, it's very difficult for doctors to be able to handle that. But I digress. The form of disassociation and what caused it, I want to talk about now, because essentially I've been dealing with cop trauma for a very, very long time. And the issue is that despite that, despite that trauma, I'm not afraid of all cops. You know, my taekwondo instructors, shout out to Master Beauregard and the other master that I can't remember the name right now. But shout out to you guys who taught me to defend myself in middle school, because I wasn't ready to talk about the assault then. But you gave me the power to at least survive what was happening to me, even though I couldn't talk about it. And you gave me the tools to survive my family. So, like I said, I'm not afraid of all cops. It's very specific, and only some put me on edge, and it's the ones that are nervous around people who are not like them, because those are the ones that make mistakes and harm us. You know, a lot of the issues I have with my left shoulder are because of the cops that tackled me in my own room. And all because I asked for their badge number. I was placed on a 5150 hold. Even though, it wasn't me that started that issue, you know. So people try to make it about, oh, don't call the cops and this like that. Yeah, I get that. But then also, if you don't ask for help, there's no record that you've been asking for help. So then that gets used against you in court. It gets used against you everywhere. How do I know this? Because the first time cops took me, I was 8 years old. And I was already someone who slept walk. So I was 8 years old. They pulled me off of the couch while I was sleeping without waking me up, and I woke up at the police department. This action changed the course of my entire life, because that I still feel. The night terrors that I have of people picking me up, I've had since I was 8 years old, because of police officers' unconscious decision not to wake a child up when things were happening. And I get it. I might have already been in a disassociative state. They might have been talking to me, and I might have been talking back to them. It's very, very possible. I honestly cannot say with any sort of clarity because that entire night was groggy. I remember them putting us in a room. I remember like just clips and bits of it. I remember driving to San Diego, my dumbass brother singing, what you gonna do, what you gonna do, bad boys. I wasn't content, but these cops were trying to keep them happy. I remember the examination that still feels like assault, like sexual assault of the examination done to me at Polinsky. I remember the harm of being alone and what happened to me in that room, and people telling me, well, you're just blaming what happened to you on, you're blaming it on other people when your father's the one who did that to you. And it's like, okay. So either way, no matter what happens to me, if the narrative doesn't fit whatever narrative is trying to be created, then I'm never going to be heard. So I learned to start being silent. It wasn't just my family that created this disassociative problem. And this is what I mean about crisis teams and improper management of people. The harm is exponential. The harm is something people will carry for the rest of their life. And what you are doing is not harm reduction in any way, shape, or form. I understand that you needed to take us from our parents because CPS had been called. Totally get that. Totally understand that. However, we were not in imminent danger. We were not in imminent danger. So it could have been a gradual thing. It didn't have to be something like that being pulled out in that way. And once that had been done, the court should have insisted. Like, I get it. We got therapy for a little while when my dad had his visitations with us, like his monitored visitations and stuff like that. However, there's a lot of, I don't even know how to describe it. I don't know how to describe it. Because essentially, those flashbacks are flashbacks every time my body is in excruciating pain. Like right now that I'm fighting what seems to be a virus or an infection. Every time my body's in that much excruciating pain because all my joints hurt and my back and everything, the only thing I can remember is being tackled by police officers for asking for a badge number. And then what the psychiatrist told me, that if I dropped trying to press charges on the police officer, I'd be out in 36 hours, and I was, because I dropped trying to put the report against him. How is that shit not illegal? You did that to discriminate, to be able to take my credibility from me. And because of that, I have spent almost 20 years without proper medical care. Because I was already being discriminated prior to that, because the person who had my bedroom before me was my bipolar sister, who had also gone through a lot of shit and cops being called and psychiatric things and stuff like that. So when they picked me up, they kept calling me her name, which tells me that one, they didn't know it was me. Two, they made the mistake of thinking me and my sister were the same person. Three, my twin brother talking shit and lying to the cops is essentially what led to that, even though they were the ones doing the harm. Domestic violence isn't easy. When CPS gets involved, it isn't easy. These traumas compile and build upon each other. Feeling like you're being picked up when you're sleeping is the worst feeling in the world because you can't even wake up from it. Feeling like people are placing hands on you is, and the thing is that it's the same disconnect that a child feels when it's the parent who is the abuser, because you go to these individuals to feel safe, and instead of getting safety and security, harm was committed. and there was no accountability, and no one who was held responsible for what was done to you, or ever will be, because essentially these people get away with everything that they do. And this is what I'm saying, that for us, we have to live with the prison sentence that our bodies are keeping us in, no matter how much work we do to get it out. Because essentially what triggered these flashbacks is that I did a lymphatic massage for myself last night. And you avoid treatment because you know that treatment will lead to these physical, emotional, and fucking visual and visceral fucking flashbacks, and there's nothing you can fucking do about it because the people who were supposed to keep you safe harmed you. That's what CPTSD is. A systematic harm, not only by family, but by a system that's meant to protect you. And the problem is that the fact that you can get over sexual trauma faster than you can from that is insane. The fact that your mind can somehow justify being sexually assaulted as a societal norm, but it can't that. I really do recommend My Grandmother's Hands. It's a wonderful book if you do have PTSD around police officers or even familiar abuse. It's a very helpful workbook. But yeah, there's not much you can do for trauma and flashbacks other than to feel them and let them pass, especially when you're already in physical pain, because essentially they're not going to stop. Today's going to be a flashback day. And as much as I'd love to have a tool that will stop it from happening, I'm not going to medicate myself just to be numb from it. So you get to feel it. You get to feel it all over and over and over again while the perpetrators of the crimes committed on you get away with everything they did. So I hope every single one of those police officers suffers moral injuries that they cannot recover from. That your flashbacks of what you did to me never leave you alone. And the sleep deprivation that you caused to me is now the sleep deprivation that you experience. For you will not know the harm that you committed until you experience it yourself. I love you and have a beautiful